We had more than $204,000 in debt, which included a mortgage, student loans, and credit card debt. We had big dreams and goals for where we wanted to be in our life in 5 years, and 5 years had come and gone.
Welcome to the Money Insider series, where we talk real money with pros who've been through it themselves. I'm millennial money expert and author Stephanie O'Connell, and today we're talking about how to break the cycle of overspending, debt, and keeping up with the Joneses or Kardashians or your friends on Instagram to find the ultimate luxury, financial freedom. According to a 2016 study, 1 in 8 Americans is willing to take on $1,000 or more in debt to live the luxe life. And the more money people had, the deeper into debt they were willing to go. Claudia Pennington used to be one of those people, overspending and accumulating debt to live what she now calls big house life. Big house, big stuff, big travel, and inevitably, big debt. Today, she shares how she and her husband broke that cycle of overspending and big living to become debt-free and find financial freedom.
We had big bills, a big house, and big debt. So we set a big, hairy, audacious goal, one that we were pursuing together, and that was to get out of debt and achieve some level of financial freedom that would allow us to travel and run our own business. We had to make some really big changes. First, in order to get rid of the mortgage, we had to downsize. So we moved into a 500 square foot house and significantly cut our bills in the process. We're able to put more money toward our debt, and we were also able to monetize our free time with some of the side business activities that we had. My husband, I love him to death. He is a collector, shall we say. He likes to collect things. And it worked in a 1,500 square foot house, but when we were downsizing, suddenly we had to shed a lot of our belongings. About 6 months in, we started to feel the fatigue. We were working a lot of extra hours on our side hustle so that we had more income to devote to our debt. And in that first 6 months, we lost my dad. It was totally unexpected. So we didn't have a lot of time with my dad prior to his death. And so it made me think, is this even the right time in our life for this? It actually became a motivator because we realized how little time he had. It just made me even more motivated to get out of debt so that we could have that time. So if the worst should happen, that we have reclaimed some of our life and spent more time with friends and family. We definitely have those YOLO moments, and we're thinking, let's just go all out and we'll just do all the big fancy things and just have a fantastic vacation, because what's the money for otherwise? What else are we working for? But the short vacations are short, and we're working so hard already that with a budget, we can do some of the things that we always wanted to do. We can take the trips that we wanted to take. It's a matter of budgeting and having focus on the end game, staying within a limit, so that we're always conscious of the long-term plan. There are moments that we have to be mindful of the balance, because we get tired and we get a little lazy and we might go out to dinner more than we expected, but it's being able to come back together, circle the wagons again, and remind ourselves of what it is that we're working on. I had my why printed. So our goal was always the first thing that we saw in the morning. When we get fatigued, we go back to the why, and if we needed some extra motivation, we would just get outside, go for a walk, go for a hike, do something other than think about money. Come back together as a couple and have a conversation about where we're at and where the fatigue is coming from. What is it that we're working toward? And usually within a couple of days, we can get back on track. Because it's not the first time we've tried to do this. Ever since we came back from our honeymoon, we thought, we're going to get out of debt and we're going to move across the country. And we didn't make progress on this goal. It took years to get to here. We look back at the history and we'd see this debt chart climb, and then a little as we were paying off the debt, and then we'd see it rise again. And I realized it was like, what do they say about insanity? You do the same thing over and over again, expect different results. We were doing this to ourselves constantly, and so it was. We screenshotted the chart and made it a commitment to ourselves that was the last time that the little debt mountain was going to climb. We were sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of looking at that chart and realizing we were making no progress. But we kept up with it. We saw through the difficult times, like losing my dad, and it just added more fuel to the fire, really. So every time we encountered a challenge, we got more and more motivated and more resilient, and learned how to weather the bad times with something other than like going out to dinner. Actually, it's been several months since we paid off all of our debt. It's just unbelievable. The feeling now, having achieved that goal in 2 years, it's unreal. We have always talked about relocating to the West. It actually seems doable today without debt, without this monster hanging around, this debt monster hanging around. We can relocate our entire lives if we wanted to, because we don't have to worry about the bills that we have to pay anymore.
All right, let's talk lessons learned. My top takeaway from Claudia was the freedom she found by completely disrupting her former status quo, redefining what's essential and building an entirely different lifestyle from the simplest idea of necessity, and finding true freedom and true luxury in the process. So consider your own status quo. What might it look like to reconsider your needs? Close your eyes and just visualize a radically different future. Maybe it's one in which you no longer have a car and therefore can save an extra $10,000 or so each year. Maybe it's one in which you no longer live in a big expensive city, so your basic cost of living gets cut in half, enabling you to pay down your debt. Or maybe it's one in which you move in with family to share costs as you work towards your own savings goals. You don't have to be married to any of these courses of action. You just need to consider them so that you get in the habit of challenging your perception of what you can or can't afford to save or put towards debt or invest. Rethinking your idea of what's normal and rejecting the notion of keeping up with everyone else, your friends, your family, social media, etc., can open you up to a longer term freedom and opportunity you never even considered possible. That's all for this episode of the Money Insider series. I'm Stephanie O'Connell. To find more out about Claudia, you can follow her at 2 Cup House. And remember to subscribe to the channel for more real money talk from money insiders and more.